Are you ready to eliminate your credit card processing fees? Visit www.pairpayments.com and use code JAKE for a $250 Visa gift card when you join today. Welcome back to the Under Pressure podcast. And today I have a very special announcement and a very special episode. Today we have with us John McDaniel from BERGflow. And John, today we're going to give a little intro into you, who you are, what you're going to be doing with the future of this podcast. I'm very excited to see what direction this podcast will be taking in the future. And I can't wait for the audience to get to know you a little bit. So welcome.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited. This is, I've watched a lot of your episodes and y'all are doing great things on this podcast. And I'm excited to be a part of that.
Absolutely. I remember the first time I met you, I believe was in Orlando at the PWNA IWCA event. And since then, we have gotten to know each other much better. We've gotten to know each other pretty well. And I'm excited to have you come in here today to talk about what we do in this podcast and how we can bring your perspective into it and how awesome that's going to be. So for anyone who doesn't know you, because I have been lucky enough to have the honor to get to know you, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing now so we can say, hey, this is what we're going to talk about, as this goes on.
Cool. Yeah. So I I'll give you a little background about me. Short, condensed versions. Some of these guys at IWCA that may be listening to this got a little bit of exposure. Spoke there last week in Vegas. So on my own at 14, just life happens. Everybody knows circumstances, no family, all the stuff, push through high school, get into college, really work my way into great things in college, and then end up, I went into law enforcement. So for the past 20 years, I've been doing law enforcement. Very successful career there. I did pretty much special units after 3 years in. Everyone has to start at the same level. After 3 years in, I'm on specialty units, crisis intervention team, SWAT, cops unit, and proactive criminal enforcement unit. So all these things really helped me develop and move into a lot of leadership roles. And even before becoming a law enforcement, was always moving towards leadership roles. So, but that in particular really developed me as a person. I learned a whole lot about myself, being an officer, and a lot of dangerous situations. You grow and you develop, and a lot of teamwork, team cohesiveness, and understanding how that is very important, working with teams and working with people and communication and all these things. So absolutely. All these years of experience have been, gold.
Absolutely. I can already see, and just through the conversations we've had, I know that all of these things that you were trained on and the experiences you had apply directly to businesses as well. And the really special thing is you're coming in with a fresh set of eyes. These are a new perspective. They're new perspectives that you're able to offer a lot of the business owners that you're having conversations with. And so having that really cool backstory and, you have a cool experiences, you have amazing training, and then here you are working with BERGflow. So we'll tease it now. So John's going to be doing some stuff with this podcast moving forward. But first, I want you to talk a little bit about what are you doing with BERGflow now, and how do your past experiences in training, empower that?
So with BERGflow, BERGflow brought me on. I've been exposed to BERGflow it's been about 2 years. My wife is the operational divisional leader for BERGflow. So that's how I got kind of acquainted with BERGflow over the past couple of years. And I've helped him out with a couple things where we met there in Florida. I was just there to help. I was just there hanging out and having a good time. And I'm the kind of person, I want to meet people. I want to talk to people. And that was great. So And we've been able to continue to do that throughout the rest of this in Tennessee at the huge convention. So it's just been a continuous thing. Yeah, it was a great time. And that's why I really got to know you even more, was at the huge convention. So it was fantastic. So BERGflow brought me on as the growth leader for the company. And my experience, so obviously, one of the things I love to do is communicate with people. And that's one of the things I'm going to have to do here in this growth role, and that I do on a daily basis. I'm talking to people, I'm talking to current clients, I'm talking to clients that we're trying to bring on, future potential clients, giving speeches, all these things. So I was an instructor in law enforcement. So getting in front of people and talking to them and instructing isn't a problem for me. I was an instructor for over 15 years. So those kinds of things have helped me develop and kind of prepared me for this role where I'm really projecting out, like, what is it going to take? But also as a team, businesses can't operate without teamwork and team development. And that was something I talked a little bit about in Vegas this last week, was hiring the right people for your company, but specifically how those work together as a team and why those work together. And teamwork was very important in law enforcement. If you didn't get the right people in the right places doing the right things, a lot of bad stuff could happen. And it wasn't just like money on the line. We're talking about people's lives. So those things are very vital. And you begin to I understand the importance of roles and key roles that are going to be pivotal for the success of a mission or the success of your company or anything. I mean, it all translates to that same outcome. How can we succeed in this? And who do we need in the places that need to be there? And let's get them there. And let's push forward and succeed as a company, or whatever the task or mission is ahead of you.
Absolutely. And if anyone is thinking, wow, this is an interesting analog and interesting perspective John has, I would love to hear more. Well, you're in luck, because I want to announce what we're doing here is really introducing John as the future host of Under Pressure podcast. So John will be taking over this podcast. I'm not saying farewell just yet to everyone. We will I'll be involved. I'll hop in on some podcasts, but John has, as you can tell, he has great interview skills. I know that you've been doing some interviews, and you're probably really trained for this. It's just called something else or something like that. But John is going to offer a really great, fresh perspective. And we talked about this before on the podcast, but a lot of the times when you're sick of looking at something, you've been looking at something for years, say you've been looking at a problem for 10 years, and that's just the way you do it. This is the way your business does it. It's always great to have that fresh perspective to come in and say, hey, it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I do have this perspective. This is how we did it with something else. And you can just take little pieces from different industries or different professions and different careers. So I think you having this fresh perspective and being around this industry as well. It's not like you were totally separate from this. I know Amy is very involved, and I'm sure that you and Amy talk about the consulting, the growth, stuff like that BERGflow is doing. You probably talk about that all the time. So you've probably been in this. Yes. So that connection that you can make is it's there, it's easy, it's pronounced. So John, do you want to talk about this podcast? To me has been my baby. I really like bringing on, and this is what we do, is we bring on experts in the field to really share with the industry what's working and what's not working, what they're doing, how they got to where they are. And so, I'm very happy that someone like you, John, is going to be carrying the torch and keeping that vision in mind. But I'm really curious if we can get a little bit of your vision and goals with the podcast. Where do you see this podcast going as you bring in a new crop of guests, maybe touch on some old ones, but bring in all these fresh ideas? What are your visions for it and your goals?
Yeah, so you've done such a great job setting this up, and I think all I can do is try to continue doing that as best as I can. And so I think there's not going to be a lot of change. We're still going to try to bring these experts in. And some of these experts are you guys out there listening to this right now. If you have a business and wherever you're at, I'm going to be asking some of you guys to come on board with us and listen, not only listening with us, but come on and do the interviews. So I'm going to be interviewing business owners and on a lot of different levels, some that are just coming in, some that are, have been in business for a very long time, and they've got, they're bringing in few $1,000,000. They're really banking pretty well. So a lot of different levels of owners and CEOs. I also want to get some executive leader team members in here. Some of these guys who are kind of at the front lines for their businesses. Working hard for those guys who put them in those roles, and talk about what that's like being in those leadership roles and having the teams beneath you that they're leading. And then even once in a while, bringing in some techs like, hey, what equipment out there is really like getting the job done for you, and how does that work, and things like that. So we're gonna touch on so many different levels. And we're going to bring in other experts as well. So, and then on top of that, we're going to expand this to, so it's primarily been kind of pressure washing, but now I know you've had like some guys talking about like fence work on here, and we're talking about finances. And so you've already started to expand this and twist into everything, that is really business related. So it's not, in my mind, like, and I think you probably had this in mind because you were doing this already. But when I hear the term under pressure, yes, I'm thinking about this pressure washing. It's kind of a natural thing. You got the intro is cool with the music and the power washing. But one of the things I think when I think of under pressure is all things under pressure, this context of business being under pressure and the pressures of business. And for anyone like looking to start up, or they're started up and they need advice, or they've been going for a good while and they just hit that sticking point, whatever that looks like on a lot of different levels, how can we bring people in that can answer some of those questions, or that can bring a new perspective that I don't have, or that you didn't have, or that they don't have as a business owner, where they go, oh, I didn't think about that, so yeah, that's the direction we're going. And yeah, we're going to expand it. Like if I can get people in, doing carpet cleaning, anything where you're having to deal with liquids and haul stuff, and man, we're going to push the boundaries.
Yeah. I love it because, like I say, with you and your fresh perspective in here, there could be very similar services that are structuring their business a certain way that's working right now, and that your industry just hasn't caught on to yet. So there might be an industry that's ahead of the curve on anything, and you can just pick that. You can cherry pick what you like and add it to your business. So I have loved this podcast so much because, as I always say, John, we're not the experts in this industry. Our job is to be the experts in getting that information out of the actual experts in the industry. And so, while I have you here, I'm sure we're going to be getting a lot of this in the future. But I do want to ask you a question, just because we've talked about teams and your experience in teams and your expertise there a little bit. I'm curious on, from these shows, and you just got back from a show in Vegas. What's your fresh perspective on, the teams you're seeing in the industry, just generally? What's working, what's not working with teams in general, just from that surface level right away? Are you hopping into this industry and saying, hey, I see an opportunity to fix this, or these teams are really cohesive and productive? What do you see? I'm just curious.
So far, and I've really had the chance, especially last week, and obviously with some of these other conferences that I've gone to and the conversations I'm having, I've had this opportunity to talk to business owners and their teams that they're kind of bringing with them. And so first of all, I've got to say this industry is like, it's right. Everyone out here, whether they're just kicking off or they've been going for a while, I'm seeing a lot of passion in the industry, and they're really excited about what they're doing. They're all wanting to grow. They're wanting to learn, and be innovative, which is great, because that's what you want to see. That also, what impresses me a lot is it seems like most of these guys are like power washing, pressure washing, the window washing. Man, these owners, they care about their employees. So
Mhm.
they're bringing them, they're trying to educate them, they're getting them certifications, they're bringing them along, and they're letting them take these courses where they're learning. Um, and that's great to see, because I feel like, I know that if you don't invest, if as an owner or anyone, if you're not investing in the people around you who are kind of trying to take care of you, then they've got no investment in you.
Yeah.
So, it's reciprocated. So as we invest in the people around us, they're going to invest it. They're going to want to invest in us. And I'm seeing that happening to some extent in this industry, which is phenomenal. So that makes me excited. Now, when it comes to the teams, I do think there's just so many guys that are like, you know how it is. I mean, I'm just telling you, I've talked to these guys and they're like, look, I was working for this dude. And guess what I was tired of doing? Working for this dude.
Yep.
So I went out and I wanted to work. I want people to work for me, and I want to do something and start something great.
Yeah.
And that's cool. So how do we do that? And what do? Well, they get an LLC, or however they're going to start up, and they go out and they start hitting the streets and they're knocking doors and they're cleaning windows, and then they start bringing techs on. And then what? So that seems to be this process of like, everyone starts to hang up at a point, like, who do I need once I've got a team of techs and I'm at this point, how do I continue to grow? Who do I need to help me? What kind of systems do I need in place? There's a lot of questions that that they have surrounding all of these issues. So although they've got great teams and they got great people that they've brought in,
Mm-hmm.
um, how do they develop them and continue to develop and themselves as owners, learn and grow, and get some great structure around the company for that sustainability long term and growth. So that's kind of that
Mm-hmm.
hiccup. That's what we're seeing, and I'm hearing. I
Yeah.
mean, people are directly coming to me and they're saying, "Yeah, like a kickoff, lots of customers, bam, 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 and now I don't know what to do." Like
Yeah.
I'm just here and I'm a little hung up. I've hit a ceiling, or I'm just stuck in this moment. How do I get from here? So
And that's why I love this podcast, because John and I, have the ability to say to someone, "Hey, you've done this before. What do we need to know? What do people not know that they don't know?" So that's one of my favorite things that actually Dirk said that to me when I was in Denton a couple of years ago, and that stuck with me ever since. Is you know, a lot of times right now in the industry, I see, and you see it in all the Facebook groups, the forums, and the people who you meet at shows, stuff like that. There is a real sense of urgency with a lot of the young guys to start growing a business, and they want to do it the right way. They really want to learn how to focus on the business and not just have a job that they own, but really grow a business. And so the problem with that is that you don't know what you don't know until you find out you don't know about it. So if John, you, I know, have your own network, and you've met a lot of people at these shows so far. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot of new listeners, especially on this podcast where we're introducing you, John, and you're going to be coming in. We're going to get a whole new crop of audience members as well. And what I want to say to the new audience members is go check out some old episodes and share this podcast. Share this with other people, your peers who are also trying to grow. Or if you've been in the industry for a while and you know some guys who are just trying to start up their business, share this with them. Because what you'll find out is that through listening to this podcast, you'll find answers to questions you don't even know you had yet. You might, find out you've been dealing with something that someone's already dealt with and there's an answer. Or you might run into something next week that, oh, you heard about that on the podcast last week. So I think this podcast is going to just keep getting more and more powerful, John, with the great guests you're going to be able to bring in. I know that you probably have a ton of guests already queued up. Do you want to share any of that, or is that classified?
Well, no, I've got some at the IWCA. I met a ton of guys who obviously have a years of experience, and it had so many great things to say. So I'm like, literally, I'm like running up and down the halls in the casinos at Vegas, like trying to catch these guys. Like after I'd gone to a class, or I'm like, dude, we got to connect. I got to talk to you.
I've
We
been
got to
there.
get you on the podcast. Yeah. So I'm getting numbers and I'm making contacts, and it's phenomenal. So yes, we have a lot of people lined up. Some guys that have already like. I know one of our first ones that I'm going to do is probably going to be with Jonathan Peters. We're going to be talking to him and talking about expansion, because Jonathan is expanding his business. And luckily, BERGflow, we've been able to come alongside him and really help him with that. And that's been so exciting. So I was excited. I'm excited to get him in, and he's already agreed to come in and do that. So I'm pumped about that. You guys be looking at that. So that's going to be one coming up pretty quick, but there's so much knowledge base out there around how to do this business and do it correctly. And we're also going to talk about things that people aren't doing correctly, or the mistakes that they've faced, and because if they can talk about, there's one thing for certain business, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
You're going to fail sometimes. Like, you're going to make the wrong step. You're going to take the wrong direction. You're going to buy the wrong equipment. You're going to buy it too early. Whatever that looks like, it's going to happen. Hey, that's all right. You pick yourself up, you learn from the mistake, and that's how we grow. We grow by this, and businesses grow by this. But if we can bring somebody in and they can say, look, man, I did this. Don't do this, and it may be you out there listening right now that here's what they're going to say. And you're like, oh man, I was just about to do that. I'm not going to do that now. So that's exactly what you're talking about, and what you've done in the past. You've had some great guests on, and I'm planning on bringing some of those back. And yeah, it's exciting.
And that what you just said there is so powerful. It's like, why make the mistake if someone else has already made it for you? The lesson's already been learned. Don't learn it yourself. So
that's right.
I love learning through other people's experiences. And that, honestly, if I could say one vision, one goal of this whole podcast for me was to cut off the learning curve for growing your business, right? Everyone else has the experiences, whether it's good or bad, and you can cut off the learning curve if you listen and learn other people's experiences. And now this all ties into BERGflow and what you're doing with BERGflow. And I'm sure anyone listening to this podcast, any longtime listeners, are familiar with Pair Payments, the sponsor of this podcast. And now that, John, you're stepping in from BERGflow, I don't think we've talked about BERGflow yet in this podcast. You want to give us just a little bit of overview on BERGflow and what it is that you guys do? And how
absolutely. We'll kind of trash can a little bit of it, but so at BERGflow, the idea, and you guys can probably kind of see my shirt here, build something worthwhile. So what we really want to do is come alongside a business, and we don't have a magic wand that we're going to wave and ding over your head and suddenly there's growth and everything is wonderful. Unfortunately, if that existed, it would be great, and I would happily run around and ding all your businesses.
If you invent that, let me know. I want in.
yeah, we will market that for sure. But BERGflow is going to come in, so we help with hiring, finding the right key people to place where they need to be and we have a very specific model called the SOG model, service, operations, and growth. With the CEO at the head, or the owner at the head of that. So very specific model. And like we always say, it's, what is it saying? It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
Like most things, there's a lot of things that are very simple, but you still have to work hard to make it happen. There's nothing complicated. We can overcomplicate it if you want to, but we try to keep it very simple. So we have a very systematic way of getting the correct people. We have a hiring process that's very legit, very good interviewing. So instead of just bringing somebody in like, okay, let me check. Yep, you have a pulse and you can speak some language that somebody's going to understand. Okay, let's go hit the process is very specific. There's a detailed interview process that we help with. And
Yeah.
then after that, we are also doing coaching, one-on-one coaching with the owners, with their executive leader teams, helping train them up in the systems and processes that are going to push them forward so that they can uh, be focused, so the owners can be focused on growth, and they have key leaders in those roles who are focused on their roles,
Mhm.
so that you have that vision moving forward. Because if you're an owner and all you're doing is out there, you know, on the job, you're washing the windows, you're power washing you're doing all these things. There's only so much time in a day that you have. And if you're putting out fires all day and you're working all day and you're doing all this stuff, you don't have the key people to help lead. Then who's focused on growth? Who's focused on the vision? Nobody, because there's no time for that. So we
Yeah.
help with that. We do the one-on-one coaching, and we honestly, man, we also get personal. Like we want to take a look at your personal life, like what's going on with it, and are you healthy? Are you taking care of yourself? How's your family? Are you taking vacations? These are the things that are important to us, and we want them to be important to business owners, and they're because that's
Mhm.
vital to growth. If you're
Yeah.
burned out and you're doing all these things, you're not going to grow. So all of these things we bring together, and along with business consulting, people think it's the same thing, coaching and consulting, but they're two different things.
Mhm.
That coaching is one-on-one, it's with you, it's very personal. Consulting, we're going to take a look at the business, and we're going to make sure that your structures and everything are set up right, and your leadership knows how that flows, and everyone's clear on it, and those goals are very specific. So in a kind of a trash canny way, that's
Well,
it.
well, what I will say, and BERGflow is not paying me for this. What I will say is, as a client of BERGflow myself, and going through the trainings, going through the coaching, the all that consulting, all that stuff, I love the model BERGflow has. I love what you guys are preaching. It's what I think is the right way for a lot of these companies to grow. It is, um, it's so valuable. So having that perspective and having that toolbox, you don't just have a couple tools that you can give to these business owners. You've done it with all these owners, and specifically in this industry too. You work with guys in this industry with many like industries, so you're not just giving them a couple tools. You're not just giving them a tool belt. You're giving them a whole toolbox and saying, hey, here's what we do, and we're going to help you figure out what to do here. So you guys are the perfect people to hand this podcast off to because of what you're armed with, the knowledge you're armed with, the models you're armed with. You have the roadmap for these businesses. And most importantly, John, you guys have an intimate knowledge of the inner workings of these businesses. So, you pick them apart, you dissect them, you put them back together. And in doing so, you really get to understand how they work, why they're working, what's not working. And every business is different. There is no cookie cutter answer. Like you're saying with the magic wand, there's no, yep, you just buy this software package, put it in, you're done. Like, run your whole business. That's not how it works. Every business is different. There are different models, different challenges and obstacles, different markets that have all their different nuances. So yeah, I think that having all these experiences in the BERGflow family, you're going to be able to bring so many great guests from the people you're involved with, but also so many great experiences, so many great just epiphanies are going to happen on this show. I think that there are going to be a lot of great golden nuggets of information.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. And we also, it's a community. So we're building this community through BERGflow, because you don't just have us and what we say these guys told us. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to be on chat rooms with them on Zoom. You're going to come together. We're going to start having a lot of meetings where we're coming together as groups, and you're going to get to bounce your ideas off these guys over a meal and going out and hanging out with them. And we're going to sit around a campfire and we're going to talk about these things. So it's not just like, hey, okay, so they told you what? No, you're going to sit down and look at these guys who maybe they're at the next level and you're here. You get
Mm-hmm.
to ask them questions. And just like what we're doing on this podcast, what you've been doing, it's the same concept as um, get a look, get face to face with other people, even if it's just listening to them on here.
Mm-hmm.
Through with our deal, you also have connection with them, and so you can get their phone number and be like, "Hey, bro, I'm out here on this job, and I know last week we were in that community meeting and we were talking about something and you said something about restoration and I'm having a problem here. How do I do this? Okay, cool. This is how you do that. That's what we do in life, right? That's what we do in life. We learn from one another and we grow from one another and we help one another out. So BERGflow, we believe in that. And that's a reason why we wanted to do this podcast and be involved in it, because you've already been doing that for people in a great way on this podcast. And all the ones you've had come on who are willing to do that, that's a big deal. Like there's a lot of people that aren't always willing to share their little nuggets that you talked about. You know, they want to hoard them to themselves and like, oh man, get that out there. Like help somebody out. I mean, I get it. Maybe you don't want to holler at your immediate competitor and like, here's all my secrets, but you know, we're doing this thing together. And if we can learn from one another, we grow together.
Oh yeah. And we've said it a million times on this show. It's a little cliche, but a rising tide raises all ships. All you're doing is raising the standards of the industry if you share information and you help everyone grow. Yes. But yes, absolutely. But John, you did mention a little bit about the community aspect of this, and I'm really excited to see how you grow the community as you've already started. So can you speak a little bit to the Facebook groups that I see you're already, you've made some Facebook groups, they're engaging on there a little bit. So where do people find these groups and what's your goal with them? Should people be talking there, finding information? What do you look for?
Absolutely. And obviously Under Pressure's got its own pages and stuff. So that's going to continue. Nothing's going to stop there. You're still going to be able to go on there and ask questions. And I encourage it. Like send me some messages. Let me know what you want to see, questions that you have, because we might be able to bring someone in who could answer those questions for you, especially if we get a lot of the same questions. There's one that I've got going. It's called Service-Based Companies. And I've just kind of got that off the ground. So it's still new. There's not a lot of people in there. Not a lot of people even know about it. So if you see it, please come on. It's got a little photo of a little computer. It's my computer, Service-Based Companies. Yeah, go check it out. And we're posting stuff on there, not only about BERGflow, but we're also going to try to start dropping some little information nuggets on there as well. We do have the BERGflow site that you can go to on Facebook. You can go check that out, and we're always putting information on there from even other podcasts that we're involved with, but also just information for businesses. So not just surrounding podcasts in and of themselves, but we're going to have some basic information on there as well. So yeah, go and check them out.
Oh yeah. And real quick, how do people reach you, John? Because I'm just thinking right away, people might have questions about how to find the communities. And also please reach out to John with guests you'd like to have on, or questions you might have for the show, or topics you want discussed. People might want to reach out to you for all this, John. So how do they reach you?
You can reach me. You can actually find me on Facebook. You can find me personally, John McDaniel. I'm on. I don't have a problem. Come on, send me a message, PM me. You can go to that service base. You can go to BERGflow. You can also go to BERGflow.com. On there, you'll see me. You can click on me. You can book an appointment to chat with me, it's free, guys. I'm not going to charge you anything to talk to you. I love talking to people, and I'll do it all day for free. And you can also have access to anyone else on our team. So BERGflow.com. You can go to my personal Facebook page, which is under John McDaniel. You can go to Service-Based Companies and find me. And then you can go to BERGflow's Facebook as well. So there's lots of avenues to locate me. And if you don't know, as you can see right here, BERGflow, that's the name. Just put a .com on it and you're going to locate us. So get some traffic over there, come see us. And if nothing else, just come check it out. Just look at what we do. There's a lot of videos on there. There's some content on there that may be able to even just answer some questions. Even if you're kind of like, I don't want to reach out. They're going to try to sell me something. I'm not going to try to sell you anything, man. I just want to tell you what we're doing. So come holler at me and give me some ideas. Like what do you want to see on the show? Because that's just a good place to reach me. So even if it's specifically about this podcast, I want the information. And if you want to be a guest, if you think you'd be a great guest to come on the show and drop some knowledge bombs on everybody, please contact me, because everyone needs your knowledge drops. So
it's funny you say that, everyone, because yes, everyone, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I just started, I'm too new. No, everyone can benefit from what you have to say. I've had guys on this podcast that just started, that just went full time. And those were some of the best episodes, because there's someone who is one step behind you, no matter where you are. There's someone who's going to say, hey, I want to start a pressure washing company. How do I do it? And actually, those are the most watched and viewed and listened to episodes that we have, are starting a pressure washing business from square one. Those are the top episodes that we put out there. It's because people are looking for them. So regardless of if you're, a month in, months in, a year in, 10 years in, 20 years in, whatever, someone can always learn from where you are at in your journey. So take John up on that. Reach out to him, hop on the show, maybe recommend some guests for him, connect him to someone, but definitely take John up on that.
Please.
So one other thing is, so I'm very excited. I just have to mention this because I forgot to mention this at the top of the show, and I think this is a really cool little tidbit. John knows where I'm going with this, I'm sure, that what we talked about in Tennessee. I am a huge fan of a specific TV show, and John had been on this TV show. So John's got the experience. He's got the TV experience. You got a voice for radio. This podcast is in great hands. You are going to be doing a great job here. But John, can you tell us a little bit about the TV experience? Because I just think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah. So obviously, being on specialized units, and being an officer. So we had Cops, the TV show Cops, that came to Amarillo several times, which is where I'm from. We was on that show a couple times. And then specifically, I kind of shied away from Cops a little bit, but so Live PD came and they rode specifically with one of the specialized units I was on. So they were with me quite a bit. And yeah, we got to film, and it was right during when COVID hit. We did many, we had a lot of stuff happen. We were in car chases and kicking in doors and doing a lot of stuff with them. And so they were really pumped up and excited about it. So yes, I have been on Live PD several times, and you can supposedly go and find those somewhere. I'm having trouble, but I know that they kind of like cut the show off and they stopped playing it, and it's difficult to find it.
One of the saddest days.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that, but I have heard rumor that it's coming back.
That's what I heard.
So I'm assuming a lot of that stuff's going to be released. So yeah, I've had a little bit of experience with cameras in my face and following me around. And, but the good news is, what I really liked about those guys, man, there was none of this scripted, nothing was scripted. They stayed out of the way, but they were very professional. And they got some great footage, and yeah, it was a fun experience.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite shows, coolest thing ever. That's what really helped us hit it off, John. Right away, I was like, oh my god, that is so cool. You are awesome. So that is so cool. But what you said there about how it's not scripted and it's real, I love that, and that's what I try to do with this show, and that's what I know you'll bring to this. Is we're here to have conversations and see where the path leads us, because. Yes. Like we said, we're not the experts. We don't know also where the questions are that we don't know we're looking for. We're going to stumble upon them. So I love that that's what you liked out of that show. That's what you focused on. And that's what we're going to focus on in this show, or that's what I have focused on, is what are these real conversations that we can have, these authentic conversations. We don't have an agenda of, we're going to get to this, we're going to talk about this specifically, and we're not pushing anything on we're not pushing products on people or services. What we're doing is saying, hey, we're having conversations about what works and what doesn't work, and we'll see where the conversation leads us. So that to me is what makes this so valuable as a business podcast. So I'm so happy that you share that sentiment, and that it'll keep going moving forward.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way it's going to be. I'll have like, hey, let's tell me who you are. And then from there, we're going to flow. And I may have a couple questions written down just to keep things moving, because I get it. Not everybody's like real good at, continuing a conversation. So I'll have a few things, but most of those questions are going to come up exactly in the conversation. They're going to say something. I'll be like, ooh, that was a like we just talked about, that was a knowledge drop, man. Let's focus on that. And I think people want to hear about that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's gonna be good. I'm just taking off of what you've already done. So I'm watching episodes that Jake did in the past. I'm like, I gotta be like Jake. So I gotta keep doing that.
Yep. And what I will say is to everyone, if you're worried, do not worry. You're in great hands. And I'm going to be here throughout the process. And also, if you're interested in other industries and how you can learn from them, I do other podcasts as well. I have the home inspection podcast, and then there will be launching another podcast in the future that you can stay tuned for that one. I'm really excited, but I do recommend, there's a lot you can learn from that home inspection podcast. John, I'm sure you know a bunch of those guys who have been on the home inspection podcast. I do, but it's a lot of the same stuff. It's like, this works for these businesses, and you can just plug that in, and no one else is doing it here. We plug it in and use it here. I love that not invented here stuff, where you can kind of find some nugget from another industry and incorporate it into your own business. So check out that stuff. But yeah, I'll be here. I'll be in a couple episodes. I can't wait to join you when it's your show, John. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm going to have you back on, man. It's going to be exciting. And once in a while, we'll just have to kind of throw down on like a dual interview on some folks. So just, yeah, it'll be great, man. People are going to miss you. So we're going to have to bring you back in once in a while to keep them coming back.
I hope so. I hope I'm missed, but thank you. First of all, thank you. Thank you to the audience over the past couple of years for helping me grow this fantastic podcast and a fantastic community. I am so blown away by this community we've built, what we've learned, and what we've been able to do, and just put so much great information on the business side of this industry, when not everyone has always been focused on the business side of it. A lot of people are caught up in the technical aspect. So it is really great to be able to have these amazing conversations and see the effect it's made on people's businesses. I love, the best part about this, and you're going to love this, John, is when you're at conferences and someone comes up to you and they're like, wow, that episode, man, I got something so good at that episode, and that changed my business. That is the most fulfilling thing you can get out of the podcast. And that's why I do it. So that's another reason. Share this podcast. Share these, because I'm not getting ad revenue off these. These are to help people grow their business. When you grow, we grow. And I've always said that. So everyone help each other grow. Let's rise the tide and raise all the ships.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely. It's
Right,
fun.
guys. Yeah, that's it for me. I have no more questions for you.
All right. Well, Jake, thank you so much for all the work you've done on this podcast, and I just hope I can continue to represent. And thank you for the introduction. And I look forward to helping everyone out there. So make sure you're reaching out to me and let me know your needs and what you guys want. So let's do it.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. And until next time.